Well, all right. Well, you can tee up your questions in the chat. I'll just keep talking, and I'm sure there'll be a Q&A session after. But I'm going to jump right into it since it looks like many of you are here. First of all, it's very nice to be here and very nice to talk to all of you. Um, and I'm going to get started. So this is a presentation about content marketing, and I gave this last year, and it is still more relevant than ever. And I'll make sure that I update some things as I go in terms of what I talk about. So I'm going to jump right in. If any of you want to see this presentation, you should be able to find it. Um, and yeah, I'm going to get started. So for those of you that don't know me, it's actually been about 13 years now, but I've been doing the business on the internet for about 13 years. And most of the time we've been solving and finding marketing problems, whether with Crazy Egg, it has fix and help people visually understand where people are clicking on their website. With KISSmetrics, it had to do with analytics again, where we help people understand their conversion funnels and more. And then with Hello Bar, which is actually a business we bought, we were helping people with conversions. And so you could go there and check out all these sites. And then I have a new company that's actually all about content marketing, and we're building tools to help you get traffic and conversions with content marketing. So that's the new company. It's called QuickSprout. And a lot of these ideas that I'm talking about are actually going to be part of our tool, and a lot of these concepts got into the tool. So that's a little bit of background on me before we continue, but I'm basically, more than anything else, I'm a marketer turned product person. So this is the funnel I like to show, because this is basically what a lot of people that are not in marketing think about marketing and what marketing means. So it's just kind of funny, where it's like, it's all about cats. Then you harass people with marketing automation, then you bait and switch them, and then you hope they promote your brand. And this was actually from an article by Ben Chestnut, who started MailChimp. And in his article, he actually flipped the funnel upside down and said that you should love your customers. They lead their friends to you. Then their friends want some loving too, so they want the product or the tool or whatever their friends are getting. And then some try you out, some don't. So you basically flip the funnel. I would say that it doesn't necessarily look like a funnel in this scenario. It more looks like a cylinder, top to bottom, just because you can have a lot of customers or a lot of audience and go all the way down to some of them trying it. And it can be much different than a funnel. But I'm here to talk to you about how do you love your customers and love their friends and anybody else that's not even using your product using content marketing. So these are a bunch of the lessons I've learned. The number's a little bit higher now. I think the number's in the 60, 70 million range or more. But basically, we've driven like over 41 million visits since 2003, all because of content marketing. Some other things to note are all of my businesses have been grown through content marketing in one way or another so far. One thing that's really cool is that the trend since about 2010, 2011 has been that content marketing has been on the rise, and a lot of people are thinking about it and trying to sort of use content for their marketing. So one of the first things I'll say, this led to like one of the first lessons, which is content is marketing. If you go look around you and you go look at any of the advertisements you have, blog posts you have, or anything you're doing, whether it's in your business and other people's business, most of it requires words, right? And you have to go kind of put them out there and then kind of see what the feedback is and see how people react to it. And content and marketing kind of go together as a result of that. So the way I like to explain it is that the art of marketing is all about creating better content. And the science of marketing is all about measuring performance. So content and art, meaning like these are the words you use, how you influence people, a lot of the empathy and emotional side of things, that's art. A lot of the science and how you measure it, how you realize and figure out whether it's effective and make it better, that's the science. So, late last year or early last year, there was a whole this marketing landscape thing, and the amount of companies that are in your sort of periphery or that you're able to use as a marketer is ridiculous, even if you're doing marketing in a startup. And so I wanted to give some tips on like how to analyze a lot of the data you see in the tools. So this is from Google Analytics. And what I would recommend in Google Analytics, if you're looking in there and trying to find opportunities for improving your marketing, I would find pages with high traffic and a high bounce rate, because that means that those pages are getting a lot of traffic, but a lot of people are bouncing. And if those bounces are a lot higher, so more people are bouncing than other pages, then you might want to do something with it. So this is all about like how do you find opportunities using these tools. Unbounce, you can do the same thing. You find landing pages that have high traffic and low conversion rates, and then you go try to run A/B tests and optimize them. With your channels in general, you want to find channels that have essentially high traffic and low conversion rate, because those are your opportunities for improving the conversion rate because you have so much traffic. And I have a nice little handy framework here that can help guide you if you're looking at analytics and trying to figure out what to do, or any kind of data in any of these tools. So if you have a lot of traffic, then you either have low conversions or high conversions. If you have high conversions, you're trying not to lose them. If you have low conversions, you're basically trying to figure out how to increase those conversions through A/B testing. And if you have low conversions and low traffic, the only thing you can do is get more traffic. So my recommendation would be to get more traffic in that scenario. And then if you have high conversions and low traffic, you have to get more traffic as well, because what you're trying to do is get both the things in the bottom quadrants up to the top quadrants, ideally to the kind of right side. So the next lesson, one big one here, which you know, if you just think about yourself and whether you like ads versus content, you're going to probably find that this happens to be true, which is people tend to now ignore ads. Ads are everywhere. There's billboards, there's banner ads, there's advertising on Google. But what we really like is great content, and people search for it. So what I like to say, what I found as a stat that's very interesting is that only a third of marketers are saying that they effectively are executing on enough content. And so if people love great content, then you know one of the rules I would say if you're creating content, whether it's a blog, a newsletter, or whatever it may be, even if you're just doing social media, is that you can't just have a lot of it and it be pretty shitty and expect to get a lot of eyeballs and a lot of people loving it. And you can't just have, you know, post like you in most cases, you know, once every few months, something really good and hope that that's going to get eyeballs. So the idea is that you need both quality and you need quantity to be able to scale content. There's at KISSmetrics, we ended up building 30+ marketing guides. We've probably hit about 50 or more now. We've done 70+ webinars as well. And the biggest trick that we've learned is that you can start reproducing content just by one piece and then repurposing it into other pieces. So we did a ton of that with our webinars and our marketing guides. We actually took our blog posts, learned from them, and then converted them to these opportunities. And I'll talk more a little bit about this later. And one thing very related to that is this idea that content marketing can be reverse engineered. You can sign up for someone's email list, you can read someone's blog, and you can get a very good understanding of how they're doing content marketing, what's working for them and what's not, and ideally even get some ideas for yourself about it. So yeah, I would highly recommend looking into that and trying to see like who you can copy. And another simple rule that I found is that you just want to figure out what's working, whether it's for you or other people, and then imitate it. And when it's for other people, I think it's important not to rip it, because we see a lot of things out there that are just copied from other people, and that doesn't tend to work. Because if you have the same audience as someone else and they've seen that from some other company before, you're essentially putting yourself, you know, you're impacting your brand in a negative way. So don't copy, but definitely learn from what's working for others and see what you can do about it. There's this really cool tool called Mail Charts that basically has collected a ton of emails, and they let you browse through other companies' emails. I really like this tool. It can be really useful. There's a tool we built. It's not existent anymore, but it's a website analyzer, and there's a bunch of them, including one at grader.com, grader.com. You can go figure out how other people are doing on things like SEO and other things and see how you can do better. One of the things we use is SEO Mods' Open Site Explorer. It looks a little bit different now, but This thing is great. It helps you understand what kind of backlinks and what kind of content and how Google's basically looking at another website, not yours. And then of course BuzzSumo is great. BuzzSumo helps you find great content. Here's a search I did on content marketing there. Here's another search on my co-founder's name, Neil. You can see that it's got all his guest posts and all the other things like that. And lesson 4, since we were already looking at a bunch of headlines there, this is a great lesson. It's a big one. I think people don't realize that, you know, there's sites like Upworthy and BuzzFeed and all these sites, and you know, you often think that you're getting tricked into clicking, and many people call that clickbait. But the truth is, like, the reason that these things work is because people love headlines. They click on headlines. You know, this is an old school sort of direct marketing quote, but basically, you have got to catch their eyes or ears with something simple, something direct, and something they want. And things like clickbait tend to do that. And things that look like clickbait tend to get people drawn in. And what I would say is that if you're thinking that, you know, these things are bad, you probably want to think about some of the stats. So one of the stats about headlines is that 8 out of 10 people read the headline, but only 2 out of 10 people will read the rest of the post. So this is why headlines are so important, because most people will read the headline and they won't read the whole post. So if your headline's really good and it sums it up, that's actually a good thing for you. Oftentimes it goes even further and people will share something even before they fully read it, just because a headline, and like when they skim it, it seems really good. So here's a bunch of tips for better blog headlines. I'm not going to bore you with them because there's a bunch of articles out there that we've written about them. But the high level of this is that you don't have to follow all the rules, but when you do, you tend to have a better headline. If you have a better headline, you tend to get better traffic and better content marketing results. This is a headline my co-founder had. It's 5 shocking facts that will change your entire approach to social media. So if you look at all the scores, the only one, there's 2 of them, which is the 65 characters and the having 6 words in the headline. It has quite a bit more than 6 words. It has about 9 or 10. But every other rule has been basically followed. So it's a 5 out of 7, and it worked really well. So this was one posted on the KISSmetrics blog, and it ended up doing really well. It got a lot of traffic, got really good engagement, and it was all because it was just a really, really good title. So another thing, this is lesson 5, and this is one that, you know, kind of proves the dominance of Google in a lot of ways. But basically, for many sites, and I'm going to show some data, organic search ends up being the top traffic source for their content. So again, you might remember this Google Trends chart about content marketing. Well, look at this one about SEO. SEO is much larger than content marketing, just from an attention standpoint and people thinking about it all the time sort of standpoint. So I have some data. So these are 5 different blogs and various channels up here that are represented. And then if you notice, all these blogs in blue is organic search, so it's Google search. And all these blogs have the #1 source being Google. And then from there, the #2 is essentially direct. Direct basically means that people are just coming to the website off the URL, or it's untrackable. And then the 3rd source usually ends up being social. If you look at most of these, some of them have referral. And then in particular, this one has email as a 3rd source, as a top source. So you can see that the top 1 and 2 are usually the same. And then from there, things change. But the #1 happens to be search, because search is still dominant. So these are the outliers. So this one where #3 on B, #3 is social, and on D, #3 is email. Everyone else, all the other blogs that you see out here that we're representing, they either have referral or social, but these are 2 outliers that probably you can infer that these companies invested heavily in both of those things. So B invested in social and making sure social got them a lot of traffic, while D invested in email and made sure that they were collecting email and sending email back, or sending email to their visitors. One thing I'll say about search is that infographics and anything that builds links at scale works really well. So I'm going to give you an example. This infographic about how colors affect purchases was the first one we did at KISSmetrics many years ago. And it worked out really well. It even got me on a radio show. But when you look at it, and you look at the backlinks, which is basically what helps with SEO and search, you'll notice that there's a lot of backlinks. And there's about 1,055 total links that are coming to this site from 438 root domains. And if you look at it, that's it's about a third of the total root domains coming to the blog just to that one article, and then the total links are like about a fifth. It equals about a fifth of the total links. So one single piece of content produced quite a bit, 20 to 30% of the results from a search standpoint. And this article, like, it just keeps going. Like, it just keeps, every now and then someone will pick it up and it'll sort of have another resurgence, and people will get really excited about talking about it, and you'll see a lot of people like link to it and traffic come in. So the spikes are really interesting to see how there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spikes over three or 4 years from the same piece of content. So content can keep on paying you off and generating you traffic if you do high quality content and lots of it. And this is last but not, sort of second to last, definitely not least, but a really important one that oftentimes people forget, especially in a world today where things like TechCrunch and all these other sites are not necessarily driving the same kind of attention and helping you tell your story, because it's essentially somebody else writing the story for you instead of you writing it. So many years ago at KISSmetrics, we had a pretty large lawsuit that hurt the business quite a bit, and we were able to use that opportunity and use the audience we had to just message about it and talk about it, and it really helped. It really helped us frame and show kind of our point of view and our perspective on this really pretty much like harmful business issue that we ran into. Another one is it really helps you when you're trying to highlight success and want to show what you can do for your customers. And so these kind of case studies are great. Your customers are happy because they get a lot of attention. I mean, this got like over 200 tweets a few years ago, so it's pretty good. And then when you've got a new feature, so this one got 400 tweets when we launched A/B testing as a report in KISSmetrics, and it worked out really well. So I would recommend that if you can figure out how to do content, it has a lot of these benefits that you might not see, not just for getting traffic, but also for sort of your brand and helping frame your story to your audience. And then this is just the traffic until about 2015, early 2015 from KISSmetrics. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but in general, the traffic's just been consistently going up. And it's through this idea of creating quality content all the time. Okay, so this is the last section, and it's one of my favorites just because once you get all this traffic, you have to do something with it, right? And it's not always clear what you can do. So I want to talk a little bit about this. So for KISSmetrics, as well as for some of my other businesses, including QuickSprout, content directly leads to everything else. So we get customers because of it, and we also get all these tactical things. So we get newsletter subscribers, webinar attendees, website visitors, trial signups, downloads, backlinks, attention, all that kind of stuff just because of content. So we found that this one thing can really help anyone create an audience and create a really, really large sort of traffic generator that you own, and you can convert from it. So if you remember, these are the marketing guides, and we have a whole page with all the marketing guides. And then when you click on one, it basically is lead gen for us. So what we've done is we've actually taken content we have on our support side or on our blog and turned it into what many people would call gated content, where you have to sign up, you become a lead basically if you do it. And this has been great. This generates a ton of leads. And then same with the webinars. We have landing pages for the webinars. We record them. And you can attend them live as well, and they've been really useful and helpful in helping us scale kind of customer acquisition and get more and more leads over at KISSmetrics. One other thing I'll say is that at one point in the business, over a year-long period, we had a 1,000% increase in our trial signups. We were already at hundreds when we started, and so the 1,000% increase was really, really impactful. But what was happening during the time is in the red line, so the green line is our trial signups, and the red line is our traffic. So even though our traffic was going down at this point, just because Google decided to change some rules around search and they impacted us and many other sites, we were still able to keep our conversions up and get more signups. So one of the ways we did that is we got really aggressive about testing a lot of things. And so one of the tests we ran was this homepage test, which is no longer in effect, but a lot of the components of it are. But one of the key things that got us those signups were this combination of things we discovered. So previously we made people ask them for their email, their password, and some more information about them. So it was a normal, typical sign-up form. What we did is we started using Google authentication and started getting people to sign up with Google. So that was about a 60% increase in signups. Then we tested the button and figured out the copy, and we figured out that login with Google ended up converting better than sign up with Google or sign up now or any of that kind of stuff. That was another 30% improvement. And then we decided to add a URL and see if people would get committed before they sign up, and that ended up, ironically, we didn't think it would, but it ended up increasing by about 37% the form field. And then last but not least, we had 11% improvement by having this little link at the bottom, because this page was very sparse and it didn't have that much information. So yeah, this is the kind of improvements we saw just by tweaking it despite losing a lot of traffic. And then this is the sort of final conversion thing, is once we added this sort of what we call a welcome sort of bar or welcome mat or whatever to the every page of the blog, we got a third more signups, so 33% more signups from the blog, just because of adding this across the whole blog, and including the login with Google, the same message, and the URL box. So we basically learned a bunch of stuff on our homepage, which ended up getting a lot of traffic because of all the content we create, and ended up putting that on the blog and converting a lot more, a hell of a lot more visitors, which has led to a lot of the growth that basically KISSmetrics has today. So that's the high-level sort of summary of all the lessons from content marketing that I've learned. I know I went through it pretty fast, but at this point, like, I'm sure many of you have already sort of seen the power, at least, of content marketing out there, and you're reading a lot of content. Again, my deck is there, and you can check it out. Everything I went through, you can download it as well. And I think we have time for questions, so I'm ready for that, however we want to do that. Questions? And I'm looking in the chat, so if any questions in there, I'm happy to just answer as they come. Oh, okay, so Gibran Ghani, and if I mess up anyone's name, please let me know. He asked, with new content channels coming on, like Periscope, what potential do you see in it? So I see a ton of potential in any of the new channels. One of the biggest issues with these new channels, though, is that most of them are all mobile. And so they're very visual, or they're very like content heavy from a rich standpoint, whether it's video or images like Instagram. And so these things are designed to build brand and community inside of their networks, but it's very hard to get traffic outside of them. So historically, we've been used to having channels where you can post on Hacker News, you can write content, and you can actually get traffic. Now with Periscope and these other things, it's very hard to get that traffic back to your website and get people to sign up. So Periscope, Instagram, and all these things, there's people that are hacking it up to make that work. But at the end of the day, those are really good channels, and they are content channels, but they're good for pushing your content out there and kind of creating a community on those platforms. It's much harder to get that community to come anywhere else, like your website, just because it's all mobile, and there tends not to be hyperlinks implemented in them. So you just have to assess it from that perspective and make sure that it really can be useful to you for whatever your goals are. Yeah, no problem. Is email marketing dead? Absolutely not. Email marketing is not dead. If you just look at those pie graphs I showed you, this blog D gets a ton of traffic from email. This blog D actually happens to be the Quick Sprout blog. So I personally know that email is not nowhere near dead. I also have over 10,000 people on my email list, my SaaS weekly email list. For those of you that just want to check it out, it's right here. Um, and it's not dead. People are opening the emails and clicking, and sometimes, you know, I can drive 1,000 clicks to somebody's content just from a 10,000 email list. And so, no, email is not dead, and I would consider using it still, just because many folks are still using email a lot. What are some content marketing strategies you might recommend to B2B marketplaces? For example, for software selection like G2 Crowd. Um, uh, I think that B2B marketplaces, depending on, you know, what you're talking about, is like you're trying to attract two separate audiences. And so if you're going to do content marketing, then you want to think about both those audiences and what do they need? And how can you create a brand that both those audiences are gravitating towards because of content? Otherwise, I think content marketing and all the standard B2B practices still work in even marketplaces. It's just a matter of knowing the difference between the two audiences and knowing which one you're trying to attract. It's likely that only one side of your audience is best suited for content. The other side might be able to be got a different way. Do you have any data on a big scale split AdWords project, like a million ads with split ads where quality score, et cetera, went up? I have lots of data on stuff like that. I'm not sure what you're looking for. So if you want specific information, um, please let me know. So I have more questions than answers. I don't know what kind of data you're looking for on that. But if you do large scale AdWords projects and are spending a lot of money, you have to experiment a lot and you have to have expertise. That's probably the biggest pieces of feedback I'd give you, because AdWords is harder than ever to master, especially at scale. What do you think about Instagram's content advertisements? I think that they're probably not going to work for startups right now. They're probably much more suited for bigger brands because Instagram is really tuned towards larger brands and visual content, and startups don't always benefit from that. If you're a consumer startup, though, I would consider seeing if you can get actual revenue from Instagram ads. What percentage of your co-founder's time should be allocated to content marketing the first year to start? What do you think? If content marketing is a big channel for you, then I would dedicate up to half or more of somebody's time on it early on, whether it's a co-founder or somebody else, ideally 100% of the time, if it is a big channel for you. But I would first determine whether content marketing is a big opportunity for you or not. What's your advice about marketing a scientific work? It's just like everything else, like any kind of work, any kind of thing you want to market, you got to find your audience online, you got to make sure who they are, and then you got to figure out where they engage. So in my experience, a lot of things around scientific work tends to be done in forums and also on a lot of the or a bunch of the other ones, I forget their names. So I would be looking into where these people are hanging out, trying to market to, or that are where's your audience hanging out, basically, and then go figure out how to engage with them. Medium.com is very popular. How is it affecting content marketing? I think Medium is just another option. And if you want to influence like a tech audience or certain niches like politics, writing on Medium can be really useful. But do not use it as a replacement for your own blog. What's the best monetization model for social content creating startups? Usually social content startups that are creating that kind of content, the best monetization tends to be not advertising, but e-commerce or selling something yourself. E-commerce can be tricky, but because with social content you can get scale, even with a low margin, like e-commerce affiliate revenue, you should be able to make money these days. But at the same time, social content startups and most startups, if you can directly monetize and charge the people that are using your product, I would consider that also if I were just looking into one of these models or one of these companies. On Google Mail, any email that is sent gets in promotions folder, which people don't check it. How can you overcome spam if you want to continue email marketing? A lot of people that are spending time on this every day are solving this problem or working on solving it. At the end of the day, though, if your content is good, even if your emails are good and your subjects are good and all that, then it's not about the promotions tab or not the promotions tab. It's more about, do people like your content? Are they opening it? Are they clicking, regardless of where it's ending up? There's also a lot of other tricks on teaching people how to take it away from promotions and put it into the main thing. So I'm seeing a lot of people who are sending a lot of email, educate people using GIFs in the email and things like that to show them how to get it out of promotions so they never miss an important article that you're sending. Do you suggest any marketing way about startups which are education and meeting? Which one is more important, do you think? Focusing on the, sorry. I don't really understand what you mean by education and meeting, any marketing ways. So, yeah, if you can be more specific about what you're looking for, Mert, that'd be great. What are the specific tools that KISSmetrics, Crazy Egg offer for conversions from content marketing, actually? So KISSmetrics and Crazy Egg, I don't know what KISSmetrics is offering. I don't run the company anymore and spend a lot of time on it. Crazy Egg, we're not offering anything for that right now. It's my new company called QuickSprout, and this is a URL, and we offer a lot of tools for conversions and content marketing, and we're just getting started with it right now, so we'll be launching some stuff in the next coming months. Which one is more important, do you think? Focusing on the blog or focusing on social media channels? With limited resources and lots of social media channels, which one should we focus on? Well, honestly, you just want to focus on where your audience is. And many times the social sites isn't where your audience is, and it's much easier to start blogging and get their attention. So for me, it's just about how do I get my audience's attention? And where are they? And so sometimes social media work, oftentimes a blog is better, but it really depends on sort of your audience. So I would think about all the social channels and try to get some demographic data about who is engaging on them. And if your customer base is there, and then you should be fine. Okay, so Isa said, I think email marketing is not user-friendly for the last years. You're probably right, but I've seen, yeah, I've seen email marketing still work. So I don't really want to debate it, and I would recommend everybody try it if you can build an email list and you think that your audience would like emails from you. What tips can you suggest for adding content to some of the dry industries like real estate, which have B2C market? It's always about finding the content opportunities. So when we started KISSmetrics, we really looked at all the content out there that people were reading, our audience was reading, that marketers were reading, and we realized that we had an opportunity to write a specific style of content that would be really useful. So in the markets like that, I would just do an analysis of the content that exists, whether it's dry or not, and go, there's always great content out there, there just might not be enough of it. And if you find that great content and find the pattern that makes it great, then you can create a whole content marketing strategy just around knowing that audience, knowing what they're reading, and having an opportunity to stand out with the content you create, because that's what's important, which is standing out with their content so that people gravitate towards it and expect a certain brand, a certain feel from you. What tips can you suggest for adding content to some of the dry industries? Okay, I already said that. Do you suggest any marketing strategies starts that are integrated with education and meeting? I still don't understand, Mark, what you mean by education and meeting. So can you be more specific about what you mean by integrated with education and meeting? Also, you know, as per typing, and I'm getting some specifics here from Mert, I I would say that a lot of these questions are great. A lot of them have to be very specific to your audience and your business, and I would be suggesting to all of you when you think about content and marketing to really try to be specific and try to really have, whether you use personas or whatever your strategy is, try to really have a good understanding of your audience, and that'll help you really shape everything else. So I would highly recommend that over any other strategy, which is understand your audience and create what they really need. Which one is better, Google ads or Facebook ads? Neither. I would test both of them. I'm finding different companies finding different success on both of them. So I don't really have a good answer. I think you need to test it for yourself. And again, when you're very intent specific and you can do keyword research, then you can look at Google ads and see if it's affordable for you. And in terms of Facebook, it's mostly just about testing and targeting. We don't have a very big content curation team. We are very efficient about it, and there's not more than a couple people on any of our content teams at this point. I don't really, in terms of the best way to target audience groups, ads, like test it. I don't have a better answer. And there's a lot of content about Facebook and how to use the ad system. So I'd recommend looking up some of that content if you have questions that are specific to some of these systems. Like I know them, I use them, but there's a lot of great content out there about how to use Facebook and how to use Google Ads and all that. Any more questions? I see a few of you starting to type and whatnot. Okay, Mark. Mark gave me some details. Startup has an audience. The audience is university students. The startup works in education and meetings, so gathering. What's your best to share marketing strategy for that startup? I still don't have enough information, honestly, Mark, but like I'll do my best. And I love more context. I don't like to give generic advice, and many of these questions are very generic. So I like to ask more questions. So in this case, it's like if you're targeting university students, one, they're a really hard group to target and get to use something because they're in a weird place where they're at college, they just got out of high school, they're independent for the first time, and they just want to go hang out and meet other students more than they want to study in most cases. So if your product is a study product, my advice would be find those nerds, find those people that are taking notes for other people, and build a marketing strategy around using those people to be your evangelist. If your audience is university students, and I would say you need to, if your product is not a fun one, then you need to find the people that want your type of product, which might not be a fun one. And that's usually those people that are taking the notes in class, helping other people with that and stuff like that. Um, so Noman asks about the best strategy for a data startup. Um, selling custom lists for email marketing. I don't really know. Again, these are so generic, and I'm just being direct. Like, I don't know the best strategy. I have more questions than answers for every one of those businesses that you're mentioning, and so I can go riff off it. But if you do what I say, based on what you're telling me there, you might totally get it wrong. Um, so the best thing I can say is like if you're selling custom lists for email marketing, I'm assuming you're selling to marketers. So your best strategy might just be cold emailing marketers that you think can benefit from what you do. And usually early on in this B2B business, my recommendation is going to be try to do sales, try to do customer development, and try to actually just reach your customer, even like on the phone, on an email, cold email them, and see if they'll even bother talking to you and test your value proposition that way. Just because the hardest people to reach are the ones that you're cold emailing. And if they end up wanting follow-ups from you, that's a very good thing. That means you're probably going in the right direction. Cool. I'm glad it was helpful. All right, I'm going to answer this this last question here about unicorn companies. We're just in a cycle, and a lot of companies ended up getting overvalued because there's a lot of exuberance from investors. And so a lot of these unicorn companies, most of them are just overvalued. Um, and and so since they're overvalued, there's just going to be a correction. But I don't really, um, I don't really, it doesn't matter, is I guess what I'm trying to say. This always happens. Some companies in the cycle of funding end up getting overvalued. And you know, if it were one of my companies that was a unicorn, I'd never use the word about my company, and other people want to call it that. That's fine. But you know, business fundamentals are still very important, and some unicorns have them, but unfortunately, most of them don't.
So thanks a lot, Hiten.
Yeah, my pleasure. Okay, I guess we're done, right? Okay, good.
Yep, thank you
Okay,
very much for
bye.
your
Thanks
time,
everyone for
and thanks
listening. You
everyone.
can always follow up. Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to do it. Bye.